Hey everybody, well, more City of Oakland news, and this from a very reliable source who's been responsible for a number of great tips to Oakland News now. But Maraskeshia Smith, who had the title of Assistant City Administrator and came over to the City of Oakland from the City of Cincinnati June 5th of 2018, has reportedly left the city this week. My source said that they weren't clear if it had something directly to do by statement with Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf's appointment of now former Oakland Assistant City Administrator Edward Reskin to the title of City Administrator, but he has to be confirmed on the 21st of April. But by circumstance and timing, it would seem both are related. Many people in the city of Oakland who worked for the city told me directly that Miss Smith should have gotten the top job of Chief Administrative Officer. And this is during the time when I was lambasting the city for not appointing an African American male to a top position, either as police chief or as Chief Administrative Officer in some years. But in the discussion with a number of different sources for the coverage of the doings of the city of Oakland, I was told that Maraskeshia Smith was the choice by a number of people to have that role because she served extremely well and essentially helping with now departed Oakland Chief Administrative Officer Sabrina Landreth, holding the city together, particularly after Mayor Schaaf fired now former Oakland Housing and Development Director Michelle Byrd in 2018. So, 2019, I stand corrected, April 2019. So, Maraskeshia stepped in, took Michelle's place, Michelle Byrd, but then also continued to do her other responsibilities as Assistant Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Oakland. Doing all of this while commanding a salary of just a little over $150,000. Then, in 2019, Mayor Schaaf brings over Ed Reskin from his 8-year-long position of head of San Francisco Metropolitan Transportation Authority, aka MUNI, a position he held until Mayor London Breed released him because of a number of mistakes that he made while in the top job. That's another story into itself, told very well by a number of people. Now, the situation was that Reskin came in with a salary of roughly $100,000 over, and this is what the city of Oakland, over what Smith was being paid. So elevating her to Chief Administrative Officer, which would have given her a salary of north of $350,000, would have righted the situation. Instead, Mayor Schaaf elevated Reskin, something that I predicted that Libby would do when I started writing about this, instead of Smith. So it would not surprise me at all if Smith left for Stockton, I'm told, not for a position over there, but for Stockton. This is a developing story, under duress, because she was upset. Hopefully she's landed on her feet somewhere else. Now, for those of you saying, hey, this hasn't been written up anywhere else, this is a breaking story to Zenny 62 Media, Oakland News Now. Something else, too. People that were under Mayor Schaaf in top head positions, unless they were elevated someplace else and there was a big public announcement about it, like, for example, Daniel Outlaw, who became the Portland and then Philadelphia chief of police, you don't hear about them. Mark Sawicki, for example, was Director of Economic Development for just over 4 years with the City of Oakland. But he left without fanfare, without announcement. Unless, of course, you happen to look at his LinkedIn page, where it announced that he is the former Director of Economic Development for the City of Oakland. But if you're keeping score, this has become a heck of a revolving door. Sabrina Landreth comes in, stabilizes the position, but then is forced to resign primarily for her actions in hiring a private investigator to look at and track, essentially, a member of the Oakland Police Commission. And by the way, I have news about an Oakland Police Commissioner who is a person on the selection committee who stepped down, the legendary figure, but I'll get to that another time. But I digress. And then, if it were not Landreth going out, Stephen Falk came under controversy. Former Lafayette city manager who left because of differences with city leadership regarding climate change, was teaching at the Goldman School, came over to be the interim Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Oakland, but he made it clear that he didn't want the top job. So it would seem to have cleared the path for Smith, but it didn't. Mayor Schaaf said that after a rigorous search, Reskin got the job. But in point of fact, as anyone will tell you, Libby wanted him to have the job from the beginning. Libby knows Ed. Ed worked for the city of Oakland before. He left for San Francisco. And by many people, Ed is well regarded. This is not a slight against Ed. I have said before, and I will say again, that Ed came into a situation that by design was ugly. It's not a reflection on him, but when you start to look at the situation overall, it is a reflection on much that has gone wrong with the city of Oakland, sadly, but can be corrected. And yes, with Mayor Schaaf at the top. Stay tuned and subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. And I remind you, this is a developing story. And by the way, stay safe and remember to shelter in place with aplomb.